and rights for both sides. So let's see, when you went down, you said, see, and then you went again and you used the wrong case. You see? Yeah, exactly.
I didn't remember, so I put what I remember.
But I know we hammered that in the UDT versus Kirkwood is definition of a bank. Definition of a bank. Then I said rights and duties. Once you know rights and duties, like Trey was telling you, when you come to this part of the exam, you're only talking about a bank and its client. That's all you're talking about. Curtis, where's yours?
I don't really, you just pass it.
Say what?
She didn't mark it.
I didn't mark it yet.
You did the answers.
No, they wanted to know. Let me see. And remember, I saw this just now before. A couple of people did this. Do not answer the question in the first sentence. I said that before. Even if it's banking. Remember, I said banking is based on contract law. So if I say, can this person bring a claim? You don't answer in the first sentence, yes, they can. Because if you go further down and you're telling me no, that means your answer's wrong. You don't know where there's yes and you don't know where there's no. You do it just like a contract case. What is the issue? Then what is the law? And then you apply it to the scenario. Okay, so your case is more relevant than hers, but you still forget the most important case.
Which one?
Joachimson versus Swiss.
I was trying to remember.
Rights and duties.
So, Ms. Archer was going to give me for that, or something like that,
What?
when I wrote.
You got the case wrong. But you have, the principles are there. So for the finals, you have to hone in the case. And if you study the way I told you to study it, you won't have this difficulty. You can't just guess this. You have to know this. Okay? So I wouldn't take off any points because you didn't write the right case. It is a banking law case, but it's just not the precise one that you need to know. And remember, this is midterm. This isn't final. And final, there's no leeway. You should know.
Final is what, 20%? 40%?
No. 60. I come in. Who Thompson? Not that ain't you. Hmm? Oh, I call her name first. Fix your face. Why you looking like this? No, I have it. It was stuck in between patent papers. I have it.
You have it now?
Mm-hmm. Mean your research paper? Yeah.
Can I see it here?
Anybody want to see the other papers?
Yes, I want to see mine.
The research paper?
Bruce?
Everything
Can you give them back?
Yes, I did. I gave them out in class.
But she didn't know. I mean, but she didn't grade.
Oh,
Let me see.
yeah, let me see
Which
my
one
picture.
was to see now? Please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me switch it. So I get, so this amount what I'm telling you, this for everything, including the
No.
research paper?
That does not include the research paper.
Oh, okay. So this percentage or this over 60?
That was out of 100.
I mean, like we, how would it be out of 100?
I guess
The whole
to
thing
that.
is over 60. Right?
Add all of them together. That's the grade.
20 points each, right, Ms. Archer?
What? Yeah.
So the whole test was out of 60, correct? We passed it, what is it? How do you mean no? I don't, we have 3 sections. told me, so then that told me.
That's the
See?
best.
Just
You're
like-
wrong.
The same, the link is
No, you're on this one. That's why you had additional, that's why you had additional question.
I see just one question. And then there's two questions. For part B, that's part C. Part B, 1, A, B, C, all in a hot. Two questions.
You did 2 questions?
See, do the same. Number 1.
More questions.
No,
Sorry,
it's supposed to
Yeah.
go 2 or the 3.
Yes.
You have the instruction paper on you?
I don't know.
You're looking at the back.
Guess what?
Did I answer 2 questions?
I gotta get more water. I tried.
Okay, so it's part A was the research. Part B had 1A, 1B, and there's a 2, and there's a 3.
1A, B, C, and then this is number 2.
And there's number 3.
You said, would we ask if you answer the mistake?
They could change that.
No, I say answer all questions.
I had the same issue too. I thought it was
We asked them and they
Okay,
said,
so
oh,
where you
it's
did, where you did,
Did you
okay,
answer?
so where you did 2 out of 3,
Yeah.
I gave you 5 questions.
No,
In the makeup.
Not the makeup.
Oh.
In the makeup.
So why they tell
You
us?
see what I mean?
Why they? 'Cause
So
we
when I
asked-
looked at it, I saw some people didn't answer all
Because we
at the
asked-
end,
I
right, or the
specifically
first one.
asked-
And so I said I would give you 5 questions.
I specifically asked.
One
about
goes
that.
to this, and the other 4 is for the makeup.
So Ms. Archer, why they do that? Because I specifically asked about that, because I saw where it could have been either or.
Yeah.
Answer all questions or choose 2. When I asked them which one was supposed to do with, she said, I don't know nothing about
Not
this
the new
exam.
one. No.
That's the amount. That's what she
But it
said.
don't matter, because I just gave you 5 questions.
Yeah, but I don't like that. They could at least try to call you and ask.
No, I'm looking at it now.
no in a nice way.
So you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Lilo?
but that's why I gave you the extra one.
No, I mean in terms of points, because on each side, each section, say 20 points, each section. So shouldn't that be marked with 60? Like, if you get, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
That is how you do it? No?
but then you also have the multiple choice.
That section was worth 20 points.
Uh-huh.
So that section was worth 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the 60
So
there.
each section was 60 points. Excuse me. Section 2 was the scenario question.
20, 40, 60, and the multiple choice make 80.
So the chances are the 80.
No. Can I get that? Man, let me see the page.
No, the chances are the 80.
And then the research makes 100.
No, the research was 20. It was 2 out of the
Look
3
at your paper.
questions,
Look
and
at
then
the question paper.
the multiple choice. That's what I
Nah, I'm
remember.
not supposed to.
Each multiple choice is 2
It
points.
was 2
Look at the
points.
paper.
20.
Section 1 was part
20.
B. Was the
20.
research paper.
Okay, look at this piece, what it say.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's supposed to have said all.
Oh, it didn't
So
say
because
that.
it didn't say all, I gave you an additional question on the reset.
No, we looking at the points a lot now.
You see what I mean?
Can I see the paper? My paper.
Okay. I have my paper.
Can you look at this already?
I see that already. I see big no and X the first time.
Well, it's the same thing.
No.
The new
No,
one.
there was a big N-O and an
Yes, it
X. So what is it?
First time. Oh, mercy. So nothing changed?
No. Only the multiple.
Y'all are asking multiple choice, you know. I can even give you them on the final.
Take this paper back, please.
So you don't have the exact research paper. Well, we have it.
for your paper.
No, she realized that. But I'm talking about, I don't know.
So how much you say the new, the makeup test was?
Each.
Makeup test was?
I don't know.
The one we just did last week.
Points.
I take the lowest grade on the exam, and I mark it
That's
out of
good.
that.
Yeah, with all that.
So if someone go like, what you mean the lowest grade? I didn't play about it.
It's a 2 or
If the
7.
if the lowest grade of the whole class was 20,
You mark
I'll
that.
mark it out of 80
Oh.
to get you a chance to get an 8
Mm-hmm.
out of the 5 questions.
Okay.
You got me?
I guess.
This is
So
a
say
2
you
or 7.
say you got
That's just
30.
what it is.
Say you got 40 on the first exam,
Uh-huh.
and I mark it out of 80, and you get 70, then you got 100.
Oh, Jesus. That sounds-
Now you understand? That's how we do it.
Say it again. Try it again.
Now you understand?
No, say it
Okay.
again. I was in.
But she was stressing for the wrong
say it
reason.
again.
I am.
No, she's stressing for the wrong reason.
time? Because I didn't get that far.
You,
If you get a
It's my last class.
but you still stressing. It's only midterm.
I can't get no F in this class and we had to
How she get the F? I don't know.
She's trying to make
Did you-
it so you can get an A.
I know, but I tell them that that's why I'm stressing because I cannot get an F.
But how'd you get
What she said just now makes a lot of sense.
Because the questions is on the same thing you did in the midterm.
Oh yeah, she put 37.
Uh-huh. So whatever was the lowest grade, I minus that from 100, and that's what I marked the second paper out of.
So what is
So what was the
do we have a
lowest grade?
grading scale here for that?
Sure,
No.
What do you mean?
What is the
Like,
policy?
do you have a
70.
grading scale?
70, she said.
Huh? Not even, not 65?
No, 70.
70.
So there's no final?
No.
I thought the state told us 65.
I think it's 70.
I wish it was 65.
I don't know where else going. I had them all in the last class. Yay. But I don't see it in this. This is your new one. I know what your grade was. I can tell you that.
Only if you whisper. Write it down.
Miss Archer, give me my paper back.
Oh my gosh. I look back. I didn't see it. I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
I know my mind, I should have gone with my mind and answered the question.
On the first now?
I should have gone with my mind and answered.
Yeah, some people
It's
do.
basically
Bonus,
that.
if you say if you answer all, you get
Just
one
one left.
for the bonus. But this,
So when you want to.
I don't think this is the first question.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I just remember.
Sometimes I said, I told you on the research.
You have 32.
a research paper
Yeah.
too? Will the final have a research paper too?
No.
No, we would have done that.
So actually,
It's just like the questions you saw on the
Makeup?
makeup, it's just except there's no contract questions.
So you want my mind? So when you.
It's all banking questions.
so will the final be comprehensive?
Yeah, I called it in.
Hey, Ms. Archer?
It's just like what you have.
Oh my god.
It's just the one.
Scenario. So all scenario questions.
Yeah. All scenario, no multiple choice.
On the final,
You still didn't find it right.
No, but I know I have
Questions,
it.
Miss Archer?
I rate it yet.
you writing it?
Yes? What else do you think you rate it?
Let me write it.
And that's the last day of that, right?
That's on the 16th we said, right?
Yes.
Or we decided a different day? No, and
I
someone
thought it
dropped.
was the 9th or 10th.
Yeah, we had changed it. I know it's then that they didn't sound right.
No,
said
the
it go
ninth is the
away.
last, the class. The
No,
16th
but he
was the
won't,
exam.
No,
someone,
it ain't me.
Night I was
I know
writing
that.
in my book. You said you going.
you said you go, yes.
No.
And you was like, you wanted to take yours early, but everybody was like, no, that was.
No, the
Because
finals.
he said it was
No.
too close to Easter.
You said it was too close to
That
Easter.
was the midterm, it says it's gonna be, I'm just going away for my
Viking law
birthday.
is
Okay.
16.
The 16th? Okay, so 16th it is.
Okay, it's Tuesday, of course, Tuesday.
So So the grade on this is the one, is this plus the.
I mean, it was, but I ain't going.
Even though we missed them classes.
I vaguely recall.
Which one you market though? We take
It's like, well, could you
It
take
was-
yours?
That's the first one.
So our exam
The
on
one that was
Thursday.
last Tuesday. And the market time.
Oh,
Actually, give it a
so the essay after this one?
No, that's not makeup.
Oh, it's not like a
This here is your essay. This includes your essay.
Oh.
That's what I was put. That's it.
Miss Archer, we said this is the final exam.
Yeah.
So we making up any of these classes.
In terms of,
We missed.
Which class you making up now?
No, I just asking how we
Why are you panicking?
gave me back conclusions.
I like, you know, it's it.
Why are you panicking?
I just need to be done. I'm over it.
We go with the Davis Archer.
So what's the highest?
No, I'm gonna skip
Come
this.
back. What's the highest
So
grade?
you don't do chapter 7 is out.
You all are bankers. You know that. You should know that.
You should go chapter 7.
Miss
Yes.
Archer, what was the highest mark?
What?
But the research and the questions come back.
I think your boy did the highest.
64.
Woo!
Who got that?
I think that's the strength.
Brandon?
Yeah.
With the S?
He got 100% on the
Who's that you talking about?
Who got the 64?
Not him.
Are they weak?
Huh?
No.
I call no name. I just say not him.
The one from.
No, not him.
My grade was 12.
Anthony, you gave me a research paper.
Sergeant, please.
Yes, he got 17, I think.
Yeah, that's it. You'd recommend, but I can go ahead, I don't know. You
What
want my
happened?
grade? You want my grade?
Yeah, I have a grade.
I go to 21.
That's a lie. Yeah. Hmm? You don't, okay, let me tell you this. The key is you're focusing on the wrong thing.
My grade?
You worrying about the combined grade. Think about what you got, right? No one is going to be marked out of anywhere between 70 to 80. You know what you did. On an average, you know how much you need in order to pass the midterm. Correct?
Which is
So what we got already, plus, take it with minus 70. I mean, it's 70
No,
minus what we got
You
already.
need 70 to pass the midterm.
No.
On the
How much you need to
midterm.
pass in this term? 60?
I need 50% on the
Did I
midterm.
say 70? It's a
Oh,
passing
how
grade.
you all operating?
No, I know how much you need to pass the midterm. What's the grading scale?
60 is the final.
Right. So how much you need to get on here and here in order to get an E, if you're aiming to get an E?
So 60 is the final for you.
Wow. 16 and what? I don't know.
So I could get a 40. This is
So let's just say you get 70 here. What is 40% of that?
You should figure it out, right?
Exactly.
So you don't have to do much on the final.
You better do much on the final. Okay, so let's say you got 70. What's 40%?
28.
28.
And then nobody gets 70.
No, not yet.
Yeah, keep going.
All right, and then here, let's say you got an 84. How much is that?
You pass, man.
How much is that? 60%.
50, yeah, 50 something, 60.
50.4.
50.4. So 50%.
Okay. So there you go. Got 78. And that's why I said I gave you the makeup so you can get as close to 100 as you can get.
Possible.
Because when you get here, there is no makeup. So as I'm saying, you keep focusing on this, you need to focus on this.
I need to focus on this book.
Yes, you have to focus on the book. Because no matter what you get here, if you don't pass this, you don't pass the class.
Yeah, 60% is heavy.
Exactly.
That's pretty heavy.
So forget the midterm, that's done with. If the grades, let's say someone again doesn't get 70. I could always tell them come to class at 5 and do 2 other questions. I can't do that here.
No.
So you're focusing on the wrong thing.
So we can know when we come to class.
I can mark it.
No, but then it's coming this thing close, you know.
You sound like you okay?
No,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the midterm is something that you know already. You're panicking. You have to worry about this exam.
Yeah, that's 60%. That's right. Pay a lot, that's it.
You have to focus on this.
And this is not on the entire book.
What?
The 60%. The finals. It's just on the other chapters, right?
Yeah, but chapters 4 from the duty of confidentiality is a part of it.
Okay. Must be sweet little book.
Yeah. Except the contract part.
Yeah,
That's all.
So
except
no
contract.
contract on the final.
No.
But everything else. Okay.
Everything is banking.
So basically chapter 5,
4.
chapter
4.
4 and beyond.
Mhm.
When do you do all them chapters?
We on chapter 8.
We're at chapter
now.
8?
We up to
Yeah.
chapters in there.
And there's a lot more.
How many chapters you have in this book?
How many chapters in this book? After chapter 8.
Chapter 5.
How you still on chapter 5?
10, it's 10 chapters.
Chapter 8. Just say chapter 8.
It's 10 chapters.
This chapter's long. I was stressed out.
Why say 8 twice?
Those are my grades.
Oh,
8, 9,
so
10.
10. So we 2 more.
And then this one here?
It's
No, this is your reading.
It's chapter
No.
7, man.
This is only remedies, legal issues. You could read
Okay.
that.
Alright.
That's only like to tie everything up at the very end.
Only 6 chapters.
10
Not
chapters.
only 6 chapters.
Yeah.
So basically,
So-
next
6
You
chapters.
do that, and that. And this one is, like I said, this is just defenses and remedies.
for the exam on 6 chapters.
Mhm.
4 through 9.
What?
You do chapter 7,
Will you also be all the bankers? Why would I spend 3 hours telling you all about KYC and you're required to do that by law?
Every day.
Every day. That's what you do. Why would I spend time doing that? There's not gonna be no one question on AML. But if I ask you, if I have a question where someone wants to establish an account and the account is a corporate account, you should know what the documents are required.
What's it? Really?
If, yes, we did it already.
You want to get a brought too, right?
Yeah. Or if I give you something that looks suspicious, you know what you have to do, right?
Not everybody has
If you give me something suspicious.
That looks
like what?
suspicious.
Like what, a check?
A transaction, whatever it is, what would you do?
Unusual.
It's unusual transaction.
Yeah. You gotta do
That's it.
UTL.
Everybody knows that. In whatever industry you're in, by law,
Unusual transaction report.
So what you do? Reach a superior, that's it?
you have to file a report.
File a report.
If you don't know that now, you're in problems. You could end up in jail.
So why go? If I go-
Seriously,
Anyhow, I don't know.
seriously, you could end up in jail. If you do not know that, that's what you're required to do by law.
File a report.
You have to file a report. For a long time. What you just gonna say, Curtis? You start to say something, what you just going to say?
No, you say that's by law in every industry. I just
Yes,
question-
yes,
I just
yes.
question it.
Why?
Because in certain industries, I could go up to someone and probably make a purchase with cash. Let's say I go to a car
Mhm.
dealer, Mercedes, and I buy, purchase a car cash.
Mhm.
The only thing they would still have to distribute what the form is now. The form to say the declaration of funds.
Mhm.
They have DSFs there too? The laws
They
that
should.
So if I buy
See.
a car cash, I'm gonna say.
Okay,
something,
let me
say
tell you
it's
what the
cash.
issue is. You can go and you can buy a car cash.
Mm.
But the obligation is on that car dealer when he goes to
Goes to
make
the
his
bank.
deposit at the bank that he knows who he got that money from.
But then also, if you go into the bank, you already have that in, I hope you have it in your memo to say, well, this how we obtain our funds.
No, we're
It's
talking with
not-
you
no,
now.
some
We're not talking with
people-
you, you know. You went to the bank and you drew off your $5,000 to buy a car.
Oh,
Okay?
that's not-
Then you decide to go to her car dealership and you pay cash. She comes and she pays cash. She comes and she pays cash. When he comes to the bank, if it is expected that he'll only deposit 10,000 and he brings 40,000 in cash, he have to explain where he got that from. It depends on who supervises him. They can say, show me the paperwork.
Yeah.
Then they'll say, Cletus, is he employed? Where did he get this money from?
I hit number.
Oh, no, you definitely can't bring that to
Yeah,
the bank.
and certain banks don't take that.
Oh,
They
no.
don't.
We don't take-
They don't.
Don't tell us you forget that
Social,
from
I don't take number money.
No.
Not no relevant.
No. You working in this industry. You working in this industry, you should know better.
Hey, let's rephrase that. They should not take that
Yes.
money.
You better say you sell something.
But they
And
said
this-
you ask for paperwork.
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah. But those are the kind of things
Don't
you
say
need to
just
bear
a
in mind.
chatbot.
That's what this chapter 7 is about, due diligence.
Ace who draw too? Yeah, I
But
remember
you
that.
gotta-
But
Ace who draw-
Ace who draw, they have contracts.
They bring in-
They have contracts for those.
They would accept it.
So the whole point of chapter 7 is 1, knowing your obligations as an employee, knowing the obligation of the institution, and knowing what is money laundering. So what is money laundering?
The integration
Integration of illegal.
placement,
layering.
integration has
And
layering.
layering.
That's the stages of money laundering.
That's the stages.
Yeah, but it's trying to move money obtained from illegal activity into the process of the legal system. It's the
The
legitimate,
process of legitimizing that word.
legitimate.
Yeah.
Legitimizing.
Legitimizing unclaimed funds.
So, oh, we don't have no eraser again. Oh, I have tissue. What's the difference between this and this?
Terrorist
Outside
financing.
terrorist
Yeah, what's the
financing.
difference?
Terrorist financing
When
is
AML is, money laundering is attached to criminal sources or
Mhm.
proceeds.
Uh-huh.
Terrorist
Their
financing
financing
isn't
is-
necessarily attached to
it's
criminal.
financing
You
terrorist
finan-
activity.
yeah, you
Dirty
finance
money or
crime, but you
clean
can get that money.
Dirty or clean money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that one.
What does that mean? That's PWMD.
Mm-hmm.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction.
That in chapter 7?
Clean or dirty money to purchase it
Mm-hmm.
or finance it.
Yeah.
But you ain't under that. Oh, yeah, like that.
Yes, we
Yes,
are.
we are.
We are.
Terrorism.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Fraud.
What are you saying?
We're not under that.
You need to get out of
So
it.
then last year the terrorists are,
You don't know.
You don't know. Those things
A
are
lot
not
of stuff
publicized.
Oh, kept
they
secret.
should be.
No, they can't. Unless there's actually something that blows up, no. You will not do that. You know how that is done? This is not someone coming in and actually blowing up a bomb or nothing like that, you know. Any facet of the stage in making a bomb is proliferation of weapons. So if you're just the person who's supposed to buy the containers, you can still be charged and go to jail. Because that's why it's called a proliferation. It's the whole steps towards leading to the actual bomb. So someone in the Bahamas could be the person who's supposed to provide the ground transportation for when a terrorist comes in to move or move something from here to there. All of them will be charged.
Makes sense.
So do we have to do money laundering? Chapter on money laundering. You want us to go through it step by step?
We can go through it.
All right. So in here, you'd see we refer to the 2000 legislation. As you know, all of that has changed. All our legislation now is 2018.
It's chapter 7, right?
Mm-hmm. And so for money laundering, there are 3 stages: placement, layering, and integration. And they don't all have to happen in that order. What happened, Bruce? I don't know. Like what? So whenever you talk about money laundering in a bank, you have to think about the products and services that you offer and which ones are more vulnerable to money laundering. And you also have to classify your clients as to whether or not they're high risk or low, and whether or not they are PEPs. So what's a PEP? Why are we doing this chapter and you all know?
Not everybody
Do not know
knows.
that.
Why don't you know that?
I do not work in bank.
It has nothing to do with the bank.
Financial institution.
It doesn't have nothing to do with that.
Not everyone knows.
But I didn't know these things until I started working on it. I'm sorry. It wasn't common knowledge for me.
Where you work,
Cash and go.
you have to know it. What?
So you get to learn.
No, she's supposed to have learned that in her job.
Very well. You know when you customer?
No, money transfer business. You're a regulated entity. No, I'm just telling her for her own good, because if something past her desk she doesn't know, she will go to jail. That's what I'm telling you. That's how serious it is. You can't tell the people I don't know. Yeah. So it says under the Proceeds of Crime Act, if you transfer, you can convert any item, it's money laundering. The new legislation says that if you know or you suspect that the person you're dealing with or the person that you're living with is giving you funds that are from proceeds of crime, and you actually use those funds, you get locked up also.
Which act is this under the same POCA?
2018.
So if you get tested on this, you still be only quoting from what's in this test stuff, right? 2000.
I don't give you money laundering questions. That's what I'm telling you.
You could put some like money laundering bonus questions for the final exam.
There's no bonus in final.
I mean, you could add some of the.
So we don't need chapter 7 for the final. We don't need chapter 7 for the final.
No, I don't question you. I don't test you on that. Because it's all a part of being inclusive. You can't do a course without touching on money laundering as a banker. So that's why I asked you, do I need to go through this page by page? Because you're all required to do
It's
it.
not on the.
No.
You could skim through it,
Yes.
but you don't have to go.
If it's necessary, if you, exactly. Yeah, but you know it.
But it's not on the exam.
No, there's no question on money laundering.
There's no way a question could be put on there.
No, Bruce, say what you just said again. If there is an opportunity based on a scenario that you say, this may be, or I suspect this may be money laundering,
Then you can speak to it.
you can speak to it. You don't have to quote the legislation, you could just speak to it. But there is no question on money laundering. Because this is not a money laundering course. This is only attached to the part when you do customer due diligence. So that you're aware that money laundering has to be considered when you ask a customer for documentation and you ask a customer about transactions. So it's only for information purposes. Good? No, don't say next, because you say you don't. You sure? What's money laundering?
That's when persons illegal money legal.
Get it together.
Say legal money, illegal. So, what's the regulatory requirement for you as an employee?
So I must know the products and services my
my business could be.
Somebody, what you was doing?
I know.
What happened?
Why you watching
I'm
me?
not trying to put the
Somebody,
Bible
that's
on
a
the
wrong
tip.
chair.
I thought it was gonna work. Don't
Go ahead.
I got you.
Put it in that chair. Go ahead, tell me what it is. What's your obligation as an employee?
I must know what type of products and services my company would use to know which clients I dealing with, to know who's high risk and low risk.
So you in the money transmission business.
Yeah.
So what's-
All day, every day.
You do a cash all day. Okay. So what is your obligation? By law? No. Huh.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I mean, if I see something suspicious,
Mm-hmm. What does your company policy say you must do?
reach a superior. And that's only like with MoneyGram. They'll have a box, you just take a check in it and they'll block it. You can't send it no more.
Check a box.
So,
What you
The
mean?
box, they wouldn't know. I suspect that.
Oh, you mean the customer?
Yeah, they wouldn't
Yeah, they're not
know.
supposed to know.
On our system.
So why shouldn't they know? Don't say nothing. Why shouldn't they know?
So they can't escape, I guess.
No, because it's contact. Sorry.
She almost on the right.
Yeah, she
track.
on it, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what they
Right.
would know.
She on
I
the
think
right
they
track.
trained
She just
to
don't know the
because-
terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even she don't know it. I want to see if she understands.
Oh.
I don't think they're supposed to know because it's legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would want them trapped in the building to call the police if it's seriously. I don't know. But they,
Yeah, it can happen that way.
okay.
If they know.
So what if that person is your friend and they ask why you can't do this transaction? Would you tell them?
No.
You better flipping go.
That's right. You go to jail.
You will be the
Yeah.
jail tipping the
Okay, so under the new legislation, auditors also have a duty. If they come and they audit the bank and they see something that looks suspicious, they have a duty to file also. And of
File
course,
on the customer.
Mhm.
Okay.
which doesn't look good for the entity, no.
Yeah, because if someone from the outside of the.
And would the
Yes.
branch managers or whatever get in trouble? 'Cause they
Yes.
didn't pick up on it.
Uh-huh,
Mm-hmm. Because that means if there's someone from the outside, they can't notice it.
exactly. So remember now, this legislation covers not just banks. It covers every business in the Bahamas. So, if I say this is the Bahamas, we have what we call an AML framework that follows international standards. Yes. Financial Action Task Force through the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. And they wrote the 40+ recommendation on money laundering. So in the Bahamas, we have our own suite of legislations. You know that one? Proceeds of Crime Act.
Financial transaction.
Financial Transaction Reporting Act.
Regulations.
Mm-hmm. Wire transfer regulation. Terrorism Act. Getting there?
Hold on, we need anyhow.
What? No, what is for her?
Okay.
Which covers her business. So if she hasn't read that, you need to read this. What else?
So even if
Really brash on her.
Even if a company didn't provide her with her to
That's
read
what I'm
their
saying.
guidelines, she still has to go and read it herself.
Yeah.
But how she?
That ain't gonna hold
but
up in
how-
court.
That would hold up in court. You're working at an institution, you have an obligation.
No, I ain't fair.
See, you see, the institution
fair,
itself will be
that's reality.
penalized,
Very true.
but you yourself now with the new law, you
But
can
yeah,
go to
this
jail.
2018 thing, both parties getting penalized.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why she has to cover herself, because she doesn't know. I'm telling her now, so she needs to go to the central bank website, look for the AML director, and pull this down and read it. Yeah, they fall under the central bank. So she has a regulator. Versus if you're in a car dealership, you don't have a regulator.
Under the definition of a bank, MoneyGram could act as a
Central
bank.
bank has expanded its definition of regulated entities that fall under their purview. See, because they have banks, trusts,
Wouldn't MoneyGram be like
money transfer business, credit unions, private trust corporations. All them fall under the central bank. No, the lending falls under Securities Commission.
But they have nothing to do with the number of houses yet.
That falls under the gaming board, another regulator, who have their own rules. But this one covers gaming too.
I just gonna say, oh, yeah.
And the Securities Commission relies on this one too. And what they're doing going forward now is, when they issue guidelines, they issue it as the group of regulators. So there's only one document you have to read, and it covers all: security, gaming, banks, trusts, credit unions, transfer business, private trust companies, financial corporate service providers, all is in one document. But you just have to realize your obligations, and that if you are living with someone or someone gives you something and you suspect that is from money laundering, and you take it, that if you are involved in that, you could end up going to jail.
You say if I'm living with this person?
Living with them, know it, you have suspected that's what the person's into, and you take it. Yeah, but the thing is that if you have a suspicion,
Okay, so if I
Oh,
didn't
you can tell
suspect
me I
anything,
don't know.
yeah,
Oh,
you
you
can't
can
tell
tell
me
me
I
I don't
suspected that. How you gonna prove I suspected it?
it's what's
Why
reasonable.
didn't you anything?
It's what's reasonable.
In your mind.
What's reasonable in the court's mind, yes. Like something that's like so obvious, you just couldn't miss it.
I'm crazy, yes.
Vincent.
I plead insanity.
That's different.
So what's the threshold for reporting in the Bahamas?
You mean like the time for them to do it?
No, the threshold. You have a threshold.
I mean, the amount?
Yes.
10,000, right? Yeah.
No.
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 Higher?
What's the legal amount?
I'm not sure.
Once that's over your monthly anticipated income, you have to report.
That's an internal policy. What's the law?
That part I don't know for sure.
15,000.
Oh, okay.
It's 15?
Cash though.
The Canadian is how much?
Anything over 10,000.
It's 10,000. And the Bahamas is 15.
Okay.
Where it's 10,000.
In Canadian, that's the Canadian law.
That's why it's all.
That's why y'all say 10. But in the Bahamas it's 10. It's
No.
15.
When you say 10,000, you better report
Yeah,
that.
that's why I learned it was like, did I miss?
Yeah, it's 15.
Okay.
15 for like Commonwealth Bank.
Our law says
The law
15.
says
Yeah.
Your company, but company can put their policies at being 5. But the law says it's 15. What? Yeah, that's why some people argue sometimes. Yeah, people do argue. Because the law says 15.
Yeah,
What's your primary profession?
Hmm?
What is your primary profession?
I'm a banker. Why?
This is
What?
Not Scotia banking. Not the Scotia banking.
I thought
No.
you were a lawyer.
She work with Trey.
Yeah.
It's trade, private investment bank.
Yeah.
Oh,
Why is that vague?
You said you were a banker.
I am a banker.
Okay.
That's what people say when you are, it's your occupation.
I'm a occupation, I'm a
He didn't
banker.
want to know which bank, which street, which position.
Not really that.
No, he didn't ask that. He said what I do. But I heard you asked about me though.
See?
You heard that?
Yes.
I know Miss Dane would have told you that's all.
No, it was not her.
So
Me
many
and I
people,
have
so many
talked to you.
people.
Someone else that works where you work said you spoke about your teacher in banking law. If someone came back to me. they say only you would teach that course, it was you.
Hey, what does that mean?
I know there was no I can talk to her.
No, don't do that. It wasn't nothing bad. Come on.
I know, I don't talk about people.
That was not bad.
You was an auditor.
Who?
You.
You mean if I work in the audit department?
What do you do?
No, I'm an MLRO,
What's that?
auditing officer.
Probation.
She's a
Not
boss.
hiring.
She's got the big bucks.
I'm under the
Okay. Boss law.
Say what? With that comes lots of responsibility.
I'm sure it does.
It's a lot.
A lot of your time gone.
Yeah, you have meetings all day long. Because that job covers all aspects of the bank,
Yeah.
every department. So you're constantly in meetings.
Yes,
Wish I could be very tired.
It can, but it has to be done. I'm going to go to an easy chapter now, and then I'm going to come back to chapter 9. Because for chapter 9, I need you to bring the Bill of Exchange Act
Okay.
when you come.
So we
One
Next class, bring the Bill of Exchange Act.
Good evening.
What?
bring your laptop.
You look at it on your phone, if it'll help.
Okay. You know what? That's not bad.
So where we can find that online?
Central Bank.
Laws of the Bahamas. On the government website.
Bill of Exchange.
The Bills of Exchange Act.
Anthony, making sure I remember right now.
Send it in the group.
Put it in the group.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to do tonight a topic that you all know.
Should know.
Okay, let's go to chapter 9, property and security.
I love this.
I know you do. I've never met a class that disliked this topic. They just don't like the one I just told you about.
Fine. Amen.
Chapter 9.
I don't know what this. I don't do this in my phone.
No, we're going to go through it now.
Page 96.
You see how long this chapter is? Yes, that's why I want you to read it.
This would be on the exam.
Which one? Yes.
Everything
You can't omit that from money normally.
No.
There's a lot of pages.
It's about
Page
nine.
96.
Unnegotiable.
Page 96.
That's chapter 7.
Yeah. Page 96. It will say chapter 8, but it's actually chapter 9.
You mean chapter 8?
Let's say chapter
It's
8.
saying
That's
chapter
like
8, but
9.
it's chapter 9. It's an error.
They gotta give me some money back. Okay.
So we're talking about property and security. Okay, Bruce. So what can you tell me about property? If someone comes for a mortgage, what do you do?
We have some, if they have security,
Okay.
collateral,
And what is security?
collateral.
Come on now.
Security is assets that we can use to hold against what we borrow.
So if I wanted a mortgage, how do I go about that?
How do I apply at the bank?
It ain't as simple as that.
How do you go about it?
If I wanted you, if I'm coming for a mortgage, right? I said, I have 5,000. But I said, what is a mortgage? Explain it to me.
But we don't have to qualify.
No, before you do all that pre-qualification, and explain to me what is a mortgage. Because I heard someone this week, when they were talking about mortgage, he said, oh, mortgage is for fools. Say, I will, for fools. He said, I will save my money until I have enough to build my house cash.
He's an idiot.
Okay, mortgage
You
is
feel
two
it.
things in the Bahamas.
Let Bruce answer, let Bruce say it
Let Bruce
first.
answer.
Well, I'm
Come,
so
Bruce.
busy, I'll give you a template with all that good stuff.
That's what you tell the client?
Yeah, you come back and see me. I can't.
That's not
I
customer
can't sit down
service.
and explain it to you.
No.
So in a nutshell, you want to know what is a mortgage?
Yeah, what's a mortgage?
A mortgage?
He said that's what he does, so listen
I
carefully.
don't do it. I don't do it.
What's a mortgage?
Why you put me on the spot? I ain't even want
This is not a
I feel
sport,
like
this is
thinking about-
class.
Let me see. A mortgage is a product or service offered by a financial institution such as a bank,
Mm-hmm.
where clients borrow funds to acquire property or land. Sorry, land or a home.
Yeah, it could be a building.
Could be a land, or it could be building, could be vacant land.
They in return pay it in installments.
Okay.
Pay in
A
installments.
mortgage is a long-term debt facility with the bank.
So she could hear you.
Oh, who? Y'all can hear me, right?
Mm-mm.
Stop it.
Say it.
A mortgage is a long-term debt facility with a financial institution. It doesn't really have to be a commercial bank.
No, because it can be an insurance company
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
or a private
Where-
lender.
Where the proceeds are mostly used to either purchase a property, whereas the property can be used as security or collateral for that mortgage facility.
Okay, so.
Or, if we was to say what is a mortgage, a
Mhm.
mortgage is a document
Mm-hmm.
in the common law of the jurisdiction that is used as the security for a long-term debt. Or
You got
something
that?
like that. Yeah. That's the two meanings,
Yeah.
right?
You can write that down. That's a lot of words.
That's not in the book, is it?
No, it's not in the book.
No, she give it to you in practical terms.
It's just not in the book. Why is it not in the book? It's in the text.
Yeah.
This is not in the book.
There's no, in the exam, there's no question on what is a mortgage.
It's in the part of the
No.
book.
But I explained the two
So
meanings,
would
because
you
it
get
could be
extra points?
interchange.
If you explain it, would you get extra points? Like how she
Why is it
explained
not in
it?
the book?
There is no explanation.
Okay.
You keep looking for a definition
No, I
question.
just-
This is
it's asking.
practical.
You know,
Okay,
that's
so
points right now.
if I went to the bank and I own a piece of property, in law, you never own a piece of property. People say they own property, but you do not own property. You own an interest in land.
Interest, yeah, in the property.
Who owns land?
The bank, the financial institution.
No,
Crown.
the crown.
The ground or land.
Crown. The crown owns land. That what gives them the right to take back your property when they need to build a new road.
Yeah, they'll pay you.
Yes,
something for
it's
it.
law.
They'll pay you
They'll pay you something.
They'll
for
pay
it,
you fair
but-
market value.
But they
Yeah,
can take it.
but they can take it
They can
back.
take it. Any land they want, they can
Uh-huh.
take. Because you do not own anything. You only have an interest in land.
Yeah, like for instance, the Prince Charles project,
Mm-hmm.
where they take some of the people's property to build a road.
Hold on, which part of Prince Charles now?
Where they split the road in two when they have persons had to move
Oh,
their
okay,
walls
yeah.
back.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to pay them a little something for that.
So in land, you can have
Would you couldn't tell them
freehold
no?
or you can have leasehold. What's the difference?
Freehold means that the person owes no obligation really on the property.
So they own it what they call fee absolute in possession. Which means you have a piece of property and you paid for it. It's in your name. You didn't borrow anything against it. It's yours. What's a leasehold?
And you borrow, they get it.
No. When you lease.
So you're paying against it?
No, it-
No,
when
not
you
really
try
rent
to
to
own
own.
it, you
You only,
just,
you only have it for a certain
yeah,
period.
period of time.
So let's take this building we're in. You can enter into an agreement to lease this building. So say I go to Graham Thompson, I say I want to lease this building for 10 years. Can I sublease it?
Depends on the
Mhm.
terms, the conditions.
I guess.
And if the term says I can,
Yeah.
can I?
Yeah.
Can I lease it for 11 years?
No,
No, that's not.
it has to be.
You cannot go past
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, be within that, yeah.
No, I got it. I don't know why I keep thinking you don't.
Because it don't be this simple.
Then you have to apply it.
The questions don't be formatted.
But it's the same way when you go in the bank. They tell you this is your job and someone comes in with a question and you say it's too complicated. But it's not.
Refer to someone who get paid more.
No, that's not the way to do things.
Bruce, what I used to say.
You don't learn if you do
This is
that.
above my pay
Bank
grade.
If you keep-
stuff, I say, you know what, your account officer is. This is their number. If I'm a call, they'll be able to.
But why would you do that?
Because if I don't know the exact answer, I ain't gonna pull nothing out of them.
But why don't you know the exact answer?
Yes, I just don't know.
The question like.
No, why?
I don't know, I can't think
Okay,
of it right
okay,
now.
okay, stop.
What's your
When you're in the bank, the first thing, you've been there for a while, right? You see all those account opening documents, all those terms and conditions, you need to read them. That's the only way you know how to do your job. You have to read them.
Before they say, Miss
And they're all
Thompson
based on the
tell
same
them,
thing you're learning now.
Because
That'll
some
be their
clients
first
will
line.
repeat, they will call in.
But guess what? There's nothing wrong with you knowing the terms and conditions and going to your supervisor and say, Mr. Curtis is out there, he's raising a question. I know in the terms and conditions it says this and this. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
shows
would
you
ask my
initiative.
supervisor, but if even sometimes they'd be like, you know what, tell them just go to that branch, go to that office.
That's not customer service.
No.
But I'm
And then
sorry.
you can grow. Remember what I said at the very first class. If you all keep doing that, more business will leave this country. And I'm serious with that. Those foreigners, they go and they get that answer. And I've seen them in action. Clueless, you know. You see them go and they start looking through all the terms and conditions for it. And they'll come and they'll ask you, can I say this? But if you keep telling them go somewhere else, they can outsource it. Then what you
Right in
could
the
do?
branch. The person I tell them go to right in the branch.
Yeah, but you still sending me to somewhere else. I don't want to keep going to somebody else. You go to somebody else with a solution, not a problem.
God, that don't work out.
I'll call you back, I'll return the call.
Oh yeah, they never return
I
calls.
will never.
Huh?
Return the call.
You will? You won't?
I just call them back.
Sometimes.
I just give them my number and I just answer when they call me back. I don't,
That will not work on my cellular account.
sorry, they have that hand.
No,
Okay,
for real?
so you can have co-ownership in land. What's the co-ownership?
Joint tenancy or tenancy in common.
Okay, what's the difference?
Which one? Which one first?
Let's do joint.
When two or more persons each own the whole interest in the land.
I was
Mm-hmm, they read it from the book.
Oh, I was-
She's gonna tell you from practice. She knows that
Oh,
over
no.
here. Go ahead.
No,
Let's go.
let them read from the book.
No, go ahead.
No, what were you
What's the
saying?
difference?
There's a difference.
There's a difference. Go ahead.
Is it in the book?
Which one we doing?
Joint.
I don't wanna.
You
mix
wanna
it
do
up.
the first one? Okay,
Yeah,
tell her what's
I don't
joint.
wanna mix it up.
And then you'll do tenants in common.
Yeah,
What's joint? What's joint tenancy?
I don't wanna mix it up. I know what each of them are, but I don't wanna, I can't remember like.
What's joint tenancy?
I just.
Can I say what one is and one with one isn't?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then
You say it and then you'll say the opposite one. Go ahead.
I read it from the
Mm-hmm, go ahead. Joint
Where
tenancy.
two or more persons each own the whole interest in land, and there is no individual and separate shares. With joint tenancy, there is right of survivorship, which means that when one of the co-owners dies, the other automatically
Okay,
succeeds
so stop right there.
rights.
So we have this land and it's in the name of Carl, Curtis, and Mary Curtis.
Then Carl died.
When Carl dies, Mary takes
on
all.
All.
Mhm.
That's the difference.
So that's basically like when a married couple gets a mortgage, would that be the same?
No, it depends on
No,
the
Depends on the terms.
In the, it's always different. You always have to look at that.
No, I mean.
You have to,
if
you
it
actually have to
says,
look at the document
The document.
to see
like
how
if it
it's
says-
worded.
if
That's
it
what we're
says
saying now.
Like if it's a married couple and it says,
Read the next one, tenants in common.
The tenants in common is the one where if someone died, you have to do a probate.
Yes.
You have what?
Okay.
You don't want,
So,
Mary
hold
wouldn't
on.
automatically
See?
get ownership.
Carl and Curtis. Carl Curtis and Mary Curtis. Right? And it says Carl will own 40%
Uh-huh.
and Mary will own 60%. Right? So Carl dies. Mary can't get his 40.
No, not automatically.
It goes to probate,
Uh-huh.
and if he left a will,
Uh-huh.
whoever he left it to.
So
well, yeah.
He left no will, then it follows
the line.
the Inheritance Act. You see the difference?
The probate
So
is
in a joint,
reversed.
she automatically gets it.
Hmm?
In a joint, she automatically.
Exactly.
So where would we find, it would only be in the contract that you would.
It'll be in the conveyance.
In the conveyance.
Like usually or on what's on the first page.
Yeah, in the
Depends,
conveyance, it will say.
Okay.
And who would get it, the tenant to come in? No.
It depends.
It depends on whoever,
Whoever.
whether they died with a will or without.
But it have to be probated.
You'll have to go to
So if
probate.
they die without a will,
It follows the Inheritance Act. The law states how your estate will be
So
distributed.
So in
Mary
that case,
was
it would
his
be
wife.
Mary, right? If
Hmm?
that's his
If
wife.
he didn't have a will and Mary was his wife.
If Mary was his wife and he
And
had
that
no
was-
children, she will get
she
all
will
of
get
it.
all of it.
If he had
The
a,
children is come before the wife? I mean, and
No,
I just
she
No.
will get
Oh.
she'll get 20%.
okay,
And the other
if,
20 will be
if,
with
no,
him
it'd be
and kids.
50, right. So let's say he had a wife,
$50.
no children. She
She'll
gets
get the
the whole
full
thing.
40, 40, okay.
If you have a
okay.
wife,
Then it's
plus children,
She gets
20
20
and 20.
Okay. Alright,
And if this was 5 children, they would share that in
That-
fifths.
Yeah.
okay.
And then if there's none of this and none of this, it moves to the next one. The law states how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean like sister and stuff?
Whoever, yeah.
Whoever
It,
left.
it goes straight down.
Whoever left.
Right down to grandparents and uncle and all that. Straight down.
I know that's being messy with the
Yeah,
outside
shoes.
children.
That's
No,
my
there's no outside children in law.
No.
Oh,
Children is
It's
children. So if he had 5 with her and he had 10 outside,
It's
the
all
whole
of them
15 will share that.
share that.
So that's why you see a lot of properties around here, they're just being abandoned. Because you have something that needs to be shared sometime between 20 to 25 persons.
wow.
And they all have to agree to sell. What oldest you talking about?
I was saying my
It's a
auntie,
lot of chaos.
Mhm.
she had a husband, but she divorced him a long time ago. And when she got out, she got it only in her name, it's just her. She don't have kids and things, so I was trying to figure out. Like, who said that?
She has sisters?
She has 4 siblings.
Age don't matter.
She has 4 siblings, she has 2 sisters and 2 brothers,
Yeah, we'll go to them.
one of them. Right, it wouldn't be all, like.
No, won't be all. I can't remember which order where it's brother before sister.
I think
It's
there's the
brother
laws
before.
don't be before 50.
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah, so that's where it'll go.
So in joint,
And the oldest
So she
brother
needs to
will
write a will.
I know we
She
don't
better,
know
right?
She needs to write a
It'll
will.
be the oldest brother, right?
No, don't go by
No?
age.
I
No.
thought they said it do be the oldest.
No, that
No, that
used to be
changed.
that.
Used to be.
Oh.
No, not that way anymore. She needs to write a will.
Well, the next one will be my daddy.
No, but she needs to write a will. She can give it to you.
She probably would write.
She can give it to you.
I'm a favorite.
so wills don't stand in joint tenancy then?
What?
In
Joint
joint
Yeah.
tenancy? Mhm. Wills
No,
don't-
no, how this is written, no. No, it's automatic.
It's automatic. That's just what it is.
It's automatic.
So you have like a lot of men will get their property before they think about put them and their mother.
Mhm. Yeah. The different ways you do it.
situation.
As joint tenancy.
Mhm.
I've seen
So that when
I've seen a lot
something,
like that.
so when something happens to them, it goes to their mother.
Yeah.
And they don't have to split it with their wife.
No,
Makes sense.
I've seen
Yeah, a lot of them do that. They
A
do
lot
things
of
with
them do
their one of their
But that
parents
conveyance-
for the same reason.
Their property, the man, they usually put their
Their
conveyance
mother.
in joint tenancy, but it'll
Mhm.
be with them and their mother. Cause you know, like,
And they already married?
sometimes men prepare the home for the wife. So the
Mhm.
wife coming to move in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You mean in
but
the
it's
same
not,
way you married it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, 'cause I
yeah, they
was
change it
saying-
so it's not
So-
in their name.
People that married,
I know plenty that are having plenty.
who already married? And doing
No,
that?
no, no,
Or-
like they'll have like a property, they
Or,
may bill afterwards.
or they'll put
just
it
the
all in the
property.
name of a company.
Yeah, on a company.
So you move into
A
the
holding
home, but the
company.
home is not in your spouse's name. It's in a company's name. So you have no rights to it.
Nope.
First of all, I'm not
Yeah.
living nowhere where I don't know rights to.
Oh, you have issues. Because if that is a shrewd businessman, he's not gonna do it.
No, he's not.
They're not gonna do it.
He's in a death.
They safeguard their ass, especially if they work hard for it. They're not gonna take that risk.
Now they'll probably
Now
do a
maybe
will.
30 years down or whatever, they write one will
They'll write a will.
and leave it to you.
Uh-huh.
But at the beginning, they will not do that.
That's why,
No, that won't happen.
definitely not.
The what?
That's all I got now.
So there can't be no more than 4 joint tenants in a land. Okay?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, no more than 4.
Okay.
Anything after that, no, they don't have no interest.
For the joint tenants.
For joint tenants, can't be no more than 4 persons.
I didn't know you better go. Put in a company.
Mm-hmm. Don't be giving them hints.
Sorry.
So let's do, yes, well, that's true
But I
too.
teaching him.
Yes, but that's how the law works. Like you didn't know that there is no such thing as outside children?
Who, me?
No, at the back.
Yeah.
You realize that, right?
Oh yeah, everybody considered.
It's
Oh.
a child's a child. There's no illegal
Even the
child.
child that,
That's yours.
even the house that he stops to give lunch money and buy uniform,
That could be considered.
that could be considered his child.
Never.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
By the law, it
7
can.
years, eh? There has to be 7 years. right?
No, it's no yes. It's
Once
no
there's
yes.
You have to be doing
Once
that for
it's-
7
Once
years.
there's proof that he is
Show that he came
maintaining
when he come
and that he
with
came
money.
there and someone can say that he came there every Friday or every Saturday, he gave lunch money, he came to, yes,
Oh yeah.
he can be considered a child of the family.
I need
Yes,
I need a woman to take care of me.
I
That's cool.
you of age.
Yeah, they give me all-
And what's the age when children, when someone stop being a child?
Is it 18?
16.
No.
No,
It's
It
18,
depends.
right?
it depends.
It
Up to the age
depends.
How
of
long they
21.
get
As
I'm
after
saying,
doing 21,
21.
they're in college.
Is that long
21.
as they're in school,
In
right?
school, 21 years.
So what if I put them in school and I then 28?
You
Is that
off age.
considered-
You off age. But 21.
So that's when I
I just
stopped
asked
receiving
you.
until I was done, like, when I was 21.
21, right?
When they do it, you know.
It's a lot bad.
No, that's what, I think that's the age I don't want my daddy.
Insurance.
Yes,
It's my
21.
insurance, right?
If you weren't in school.
No, when I started here, 19, when I started, it's gone. He said, bye.
That's the law. But you can go on your husband on.
I know
Yeah.
that.
I can't
I
wait.
definitely will be on that.
I can't wait till I could stop being deducted from my
Hello?
salary.
I told my baby on my boyfriend, so she gone.
What you thinking?
Therefore,
Everybody listening.
No, you thinking.
That's why you think with no money.
that's what daddy's for.
Like
All
some,
my life, my daddy
some of the
has
classes
I
I
know
teach when we
all
actually
the
go
stuff.
through all of this,
So you gotta come to me
That is
correct.
I always have that issue with the men in the class.
What did daddy do?
If I have a class and I start talking about this and how this law works, trust me, every man in there,
I know all
Change
this
plans.
stuff. You better come to me
I
right.
had a son who-
they changing plans quick.
My daddy was.
Yeah, but that's what they usually do. What I said, I'm not repeating it. They'll be referring.
That's what they do. That's what they do. Okay, so let's go. Sale of land. Like we know in the Bahamas, unlike other common law jurisdiction, our land is unregistered.
Yeah, that's a messy.
In other jurisdiction, you could just go key in a person's name, and they could give you the whole history of the land,
Both sides of the road.
everything, but not in the Bahamas.
They say they wanna get that.
They've been saying that man was smart.
That's what my mom.
So whenever you go to purchase land, someone has to do a title search, which is very costly. Because they have to go back 30 years, or go back to whenever was the last time the crown owned the land.
Sometimes. Have to go back far.
You have to go back far. And if that had various owners over the time, they have to search all of those. And that bill could be quite costly.
I think they have to see if like any judgments against the
Yeah,
owners,
any
all
judgment
kind
against
of
the
stuff.
owner, if there's any easements in the land, if there are any restrictions in the land, whether or not town planning changed the code on the land, all that have to be checked.
Is it really a approved subdivision?
Yes, all of that. So it can be quite costly.
Some people it's just rent.
Huh?
It's just
I
rent.
think not bad.
No, it's not that
That's
bad.
just a
Yeah.
When you actually go through it.
No, some people don't like, some people mentally, they don't like that headache of going through all of that. When I could just put my key in a condo, in a condominium, and they say, okay, I'll stay here, or I could just rent. To go through all of this, and then sometimes to find out, guess what? They build your house on the wrong property.
Uh-huh.
That happens a lot.
Yep.
So if it happens in that case, then what happens? What's next?
Well, usually the law firms have insurance, title insurance or whatever. So they, but now a lot of them don't like to claim. That's when they get
Yeah,
messy.
that's a different issue.
That's a different issue altogether, but that's what's supposed to happen. But
So-
if the other owners will work with you, they usually do a swap. So they'll do what's the
Like if
word?
it's side by side, they would
Yeah,
swap.
they'll swap.
If they're willing to
If they're
swap.
willing to swap.
If they're not willing to
Sometimes
swap, they don't do
happen.
it.
So they'll break down the
So
house.
you'll do another
Okay.
conveyance to do the swap.
So they don't wanna swap, then they'll break down the house, they're already built on the
No,
property.
that's their that's their house.
That's their house.
And that's where you go after your lawyer to now try to claim.
You get your money back from the person, whoever was at fault. Whether it was the surveyor, whether it was the contractor,
It gets
someone has to
messy.
pay.
So you build a house, but because it's on their property, it now becomes their house?
Yeah,
That's their property.
And you have to go sue the person, whoever was
They
at
can
fault.
move in comfortable.
It happens a lot.
That happens a lot of times.
Very.
But a person spill on other people.
Other people a lot.
Oh. That happens a lot with friend folks.
Yeah, but other people too.
Other people too.
It happens.
We pay attention to stuff.
Yeah, but you
I know
wouldn't.
my aunt used to drive.
You just saying, okay, the stakes are here, this is mine. What she's do?
Just try
Drive
pass the
past
post,
every
please.
day.
What she's do?
She's just drive past everything.
A vacant lot?
Make sure no one better.
Yeah, make sure no one is quieting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she should make, but she can't pass it. She must step foot on it. It's a difference.
What's the difference?
Passing it is passing it. Stepping on it proves that you've been on it. This is my land. Someone's seeing you. Someone has to see you walking on the land. Because guess what? She's passing on it. No, the law. The law says I can go on her land. That's her
I may have
problem.
a tree plant in the middle.
I can plant a tree there and every day I go and water that tree. And you're my neighbor and you say, hey, Miss Archer, hi. But here's Auntie passing on the main road. Who see her?
No one.
No one. When time up, I could go and
It's
quiet.
my property.
What those? You gonna plant one tree?
Even with the.
And you could acquire
More
one.
than that, I can't remember.
No, it dropped in like the 70s. It dropped.
They amended it?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't check it. I
They
could check it for
amended
next
it
class.
dropped.
No, that's what they do. Look in the paper. Look in the paper. You keep saying that. You keep saying that. You'll see the little note. But you see someone is quieting land. Someone is quieting land. And that's what they do.
So they trying to do now. Property next to
So everybody trying to put a piece of tree somewhere and water it. And then when someone come and say, hey, what you doing there? Okay, let me go find another piece of land. Yeah, that's what they do.
I keep clearing that land.
You don't
down
notice
next to
people
me.
that live next to a vacant land, and then they clear it down.
I soon put up
They
my
clear it
fence.
down. Then they put a little tree there, clear it down. Waiting for the owners. When they see the owners, they put an application to quiet it.
After how many years?
I soon put up my fence.
She said it's amended for 7 years.
Yeah, it isn't as long. It used to be 13, I think. But it's
So
not that
when they
now.
put it in the papers is public notice, And if nobody comes within the time frame, it's your land.
It's my property.
And how much was the main for?
No.
Not much.
That's not much.
It ain't much at all.
If I didn't know that, I would have had to change my like.
But you have to put something on it.
Yeah.
And people have to see you go in there and assume it's your land. So his auntie keep passing the road. When she passed my land, she can see a house being built on it. And the land is gone. Gone. So, the sale and purchase of real property is governed by the Conveyancing and Law of Property Act. So everything you do with a mortgage comes under that piece of legislation, the law of conveyancing. A purchaser of land is a mortgagee. It has to be sure that he is obtaining a good title to the land that you're seeking to purchase. So a sale and purchase of property is commenced by a contract or an agreement for sale between the vendor and the purchaser.
98.
So if you were to purchase land, you already know contract law. You agree? What should be in that? What should be in that contract? Without looking in the book. Generally, what should be in that contract? Based on what you know. An offer, acceptance, the amount, consideration. What else?
Legality.
Yes, it has to be legal.
Are we talking content or?
All, the whole thing. You know what should be in the contract. Mm-hmm. Relations, yes. The person have to want to sell it. Can't be a joke. The person must also have the capacity to sell it to you. You see what I'm saying? So there's no way you should go into any contractual arrangement now after you pass this class, whether it's to buy property, a car, a bicycle, whatever it is, you know what's required in the contract. So you can't be gypped. No, you shouldn't be. So only difference is if you're doing land, you see what it says, you have to have the completion date, which means the duration for paying over time for the property. Then you have to make sure that the vendor give you good and marketable title. So you know, like when you buy a used car, what it says, as is in inverted commas. That means that when you buy that, that's it. Don't come back. If you buy a brand new car, what should be in the agreement? A warranty. And you need to check what? The time frame and the extent of the coverage. Because each dealer has a different warranty on different cars. My car has a 5-year warranty.
Boom, was that 2018?
Exactly.
Who's the boss?
No.
4 years.
That have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
4 years with the manufacturer and 5 years with actual dealership.
It's a deal.
Yeah.
No.
So it's those things that you look at. You don't want.
If you mash that wrong, that might be under the coverage. Like you say, you have to check it out.
Give the jacket, yeah. No, mashing it is not a part of the warranty. It's the car itself, the engine, and the computer.
The mechanics.
That part of it.
You imagine that's
They
your
must
business.
Huh?
I said you imagine that's your business.
Yeah, that's something totally
your
different.
business. Not the
And then there's the deposit that you always have to make.
Yeah.
We have a lot of females who always get ripped off with these same contracts because they don't read it and they don't know what it's supposed to contain. So they make the deposit, they make 1 or 2 payments, and then the seller disappear.
I know people.
You know some men what happened to? I don't know of any. You do? No, I don't know of any, seriously. I don't know of any. So after execution of the agreement for sale and the receipt of the original and or copies of the vendor's title documents, the purchaser's attorney investigates the title. Now some people try to circumvent this loop and decide they can investigate themselves. And you know what happens at the end? They don't get proper title.
Yep.
Because they don't know the steps to go through it.
And
Right.
it's the property like so long time for
Mhm.
someone else.
And so it says pursuant to the act, the purchaser of title is not of land is not entitled to require title to be deduced for a period of more than 30 years a period extending further back than a grant or lease. So it means that you don't, when you research your property, you don't have to go back 30 years. If within now and that 30 years, the Crown own that land, it stops there. So say if the Crown had the land 5 years ago, you don't go 30 years anymore. You stop at the 5. Certificate of title by the court in accordance with provisions of the Quieting Titles Act. So say that the land that you're purchasing just before was quieted, then it stops right there. So it's less cost. But if there was no quieting, you go back 30 years. And it takes long. The agreement for sale normally provides for a specified time period for requisitions on title to be made by the purchaser's attorney. So it's back and forth. Once you get the title, you have questions, you go back to the attorney. Yes, and that takes long. Because sometimes when you look at who they said was the previous owner, and then you'll see that there's some error in it, there's some mistake, or there was someone else in between that was sold to in between, or that person may have died, you need to find out by probate did it go to the right person. So all that have to be checked. So once everything is properly, then another thing is you have to look to make sure all the requisite government approvals, any outstanding real property tax, any utilities, the survey of the property, any easements, any right of way, or any restrictive covenants. So easement and right of way is after you get a piece of property, and then you come to find out that guess what the law requires? That these people must walk through my property in order to get to their property at the back. Or you find out that the law, how they have town planning have design, is that you have to take 2 feet of both sides of your property for a right of way. Or the land itself can say, you cannot do this. You cannot build over 10 feet. You cannot have a shop in this district. All those things. You cannot have a roof higher than this. All of those things. All those things you have to find out before you purchase a piece of property. So once all that is done and all the title is cleared, then you get a draft conveyance of the property. Conveyance usually include the following: the names and addresses of the parties, any references to early title, description of the property, whether there's any easements, covenants, rights of way, the plan of the property, any affidavits of citizenship and witness, and anything else that you need for the conveyance. So once appropriately amended and approved, the conveyance is finalized by the vendor's attorney and executed by the vendor and the purchaser for signature. And then you have the completion of the statement, and I give you the fees. And you know, for when you do a sale, you can either agree to split the expenses, or sometimes the vendor may say they may pay the majority of it. But in most instances, it's 50-50. So mortgages convey some title and land to the mortgagee who benefits as the mortgage is a security for the loan. A mortgage has the legal effect of purchasing property, but in the case of a mortgage, the land is not actually conveyed to the mortgagee. The legal effect of the mortgage is that the mortgagee has a charge by way of a legal mortgage. The mortgage gives the mortgagee the advantage to realize the property when the mortgagor defaults on the mortgage. So, all of those houses that were repossessed, why did that happen?
Because they weren't in the mortgage, it stated that.
In the mortgage, as a part of the terms and conditions, what does it say?
It says if you don't agree to these terms and defaults, because it says your payment amount and all of that stuff in it as well. So if you don't adhere to it, a certain amount of time, the bank have the right to realize in the property.
Take the collateral.
Okay, so from contract law, we know that whenever you enter in a contract, it has terms and conditions, correct?
Yeah.
But you also learn in banking law that those terms and conditions are in law. So if you go to the law of conveyancing, you'll see the section that says after 3 consecutive payments, the bank then have the right then to invoke.
Yep.
After 3 consecutive payments on the 4th one, they can demand their money back.
Yep.
By law.
Mhm.
3 consecutive payments. On the 4th one, they could say, I want my money. Or they could begin proceedings to sell your house. Only because the government intervened in this last one, because of the recession, it didn't happen. But by law, before this recession, you missed 3 consecutive payments, your house going up for sale.
Oh,
They
yeah.
even took me, I was the homeowner.
I was, that's what
That's why they did it, because of the recession. If there wasn't a recession, those homes would have been sold. The advantage to the mortgagor is that he can borrow money to purchase the house. So let's just say, if I went to the bank now to borrow some money for a mortgage, what rights do I have to that house?
Pardon? Sorry.
If I went to the bank to borrow money for a mortgage, what rights do I have? What rights do I have if I have a mortgage?
You have the right to pay that back.
I got a mortgage. Let's get low figures. I went to the bank. I got a mortgage for 50,000. The value on my house, the appraised value, is 100,000.
You have the right to borrow against the equity, you know?
So you have a right to borrow against the equity in the home. Okay. So I don't have a loan now. So I came for a mortgage for 50,000. So 3 years have gone by, and I paid.
5,000.
Yeah, because you charge so much in interest.
No, for real, I feel like my mortgage ain't that.
So, how much more can I borrow?
You could go back to the stamped value of the mortgage.
I can go back and borrow another 5. That's how they
Yeah.
get you.
Uh-huh.
Or
Up to 25,000 equity.
what's the
It depends.
loan to value ratio?
It depends on the bank.
The bank. Some bank give you a loan to value of 75%.
60%.
Some give you 60%. Some give you 50%.
Yeah, it depends.
Depends on the risk rating of the client.
Uh-huh. So it depends.
So say you're a person who don't pay.
Oh.
They may give you 130%.
No, for real.
Yeah. That's how it happens. But let's just say here you could get 60%.
Yeah, it's usually around 60, especially with the contract.
So then you could get it up stamp 60,000.
And you can upstamp it.
What? What, up stamp?
I don't know why they escaped that.
Yeah,
Who?
what?
Okay, so here I only needed 50,000, correct? I mean, I got a mortgage for 50. Let's say I had to do some renovations. I'd own this outright. So I had a 2-bedroom, I want to add on another room. I needed to do some repairs to the roof. You know, roof is a lot of money. To do a roof is about $20,000 to $30,000. Okay, so I borrowed 50. So think about it now. So here we are, 3 years later, I've only paid back 5 because they take the interest first. So I'm at 45, right? So let's just say, I don't know, something happened, I want to make some more renovations to the house. So if I look at what here, how much can I borrow? I only can borrow 5.
Yeah.
5,000 can't even buy you a fridge.
I'm not gonna get
Your fridge,
refrigerator.
No, I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Stainless steel.
So I need more money, so that's why they were doing up stamp.
And upstamp for
Up
the.
in the fridge.
Where you can get the 5 to bring it back to 50, and then the difference between these two is 10. So you can borrow $15,000 more.
So just need to pay the legal fees to upstamp.
Yeah, you have to pay the legal fees for the up stamping. So there are 3 types of security over land. Huh? What?
You letting us know slowly but surely. You
What?
letting us know.
No what?
$5,000 fridge.
No, she did that.
2018.
I said, Ken, I didn't say I was buying one. I'm telling you what the price of a fridge is.
Our fridge costs more than that.
2018.
That's how much is presidency truly.
What?
I was
Exactly.
And then I had to ship it.
Okay, so how much you can do? 18? Okay then. That's the price of a fridge. And remember, everything that made today is disposable. Nothing is made like before. When you were small, you had a fridge, and that fridge was there even when you went back. That don't happen no more. 5 years is the limit. After that, you will buy everything again. Even your clothes disintegrate. So don't believe you can keep them clothes there for the next 20 years. That will not happen. Because they're not made from material. Everything is synthetic. Take your plastic grocery bag and put it in a room and check it after 1 month. It's dust. And so will your clothes be. And so is the food that you eat.
Every week, I used to have my clothes for years.
Huh?
Use the cloth bag for groceries.
Yeah, I have bags.
The bags is like thing.
Like this for fun.
She have personal bag. You was killing.
That's what you're supposed to have.
You was kill me.
You like
To save the environment.
If you save the environment and be moving towards that, there will be no more plastic bags.
Green bags, right?
Yeah, green bags.
You have kids, Miss Audra?
I have a few.
2 sons.
No. You know
Why?
They grown?
One is a lawyer.
One is the lawyer, one's the doctor.
One is a doctor.
No.
She's look at her face.
My son is doing a degree in international business and marketing.
Oh, the same.
How old?
22.
Oh, you have young kids? All two like mama same age?
My other son is 34.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Is he married?
He's special needs, no.
So they can't even, I thought I had a child.
No.
Congratulations.
I thought I had a child.
I had 3 dogs.
Oh,
3 dogs.
Still married?
Dogs
you so
expensive.
is she married?
You married? Yeah, she married.
Oh,
I have a
thought she
pit bull
said she's
and
not
2
married.
child.
Sorry.
Oh, nice. Can you see
Are you married?
She married. Miss Audrey.
I can take one for you.
Miss Audrey, you said you're not married.
Yes, 23 years.
Oh, you are. Oh, sorry. Bruce said he thought he had a chance at you. Sorry.
You gonna get taken care of.
Not today. It's not today.
Irene.
When you have your
Just know her conveyance is in joint tenancy. No, joint tenancy.
when
So
you have your friends over,
When I have what?
and you don't like
Friends
Say when you
over?
have your friends over.
I don't have friends.
You don't have friends?
No.
No, you're not so
your
much.
friend is her husband.
No friends.
You don't have much friends.
And the dogs.
No.
And the
My dogs.
The dog and her husband.
Your dog.
Cassidy.
You
She's
sound
that
like my
high.
mommy. My mommy
It's a
like.
pit
What is
bull.
that? Oh my
I
God.
wanna see. My husband is down.
I'll take a picture when she stands up.
Okay, alright.
I'll take a picture for you when she tries to open the door.
Yes.
She's tall.
Yes, I want to see.
She's a pit bull.
I want to see.
She's a female. She's a pit bull and what do they call it? Something beginning with L. She's mixed.
Labrador.
No, she's not a Labrador.
They usually make good dogs.
She's very sensible.
I would like to see.
You play with the phone, she's gonna take the phone and she's gonna start see what she can get on the phone.
Really?
If she's hungry and you don't cook her food, she will go to that thing and try to turn on the burner. Take off all the knobs off the burner.
Oh, so she living in
Smart dog.
Yeah.
My
I have to cook her food every day. 5 o'clock? That's on the edge of the bed. It's time to get up.
Put him in a cage outside.
I know she gonna work if they knock on the cage.
Very sensible.
How she get along with the child?
The chows are outside. They don't want to be inside.
Put the child outside.
They don't want to be inside.
Put the pit bull inside.
They don't want to be.
They don't want to be inside.
What color?
What? My child, brown and black.
One brown, one black. The black is a what, female?
Male. He's a terror. He likes to bite.
Yeah, them chow chow.
Yeah?
They heard him out.
Yeah.
Miss Archer, you won't be disturbing the neighbors with those dogs, eh?
What do you mean, huh?
Because I got a neighbor.
First of all, our neighbors 10 feet from us.
It's not disturbing.
Noise, barking,
Barking all
constantly.
night, all morning, all day.
Well, you don't understand.
But
I have a
dogs,
dog too, you know.
but dogs do bark. That's the
Okay
purpose.
then.
I have a pit bull.
That's the purpose.
That's noise
They get
pollution.
poison.
One time my dog was
Oh, Jesus.
by us and knock on our door in the middle of the night. You know, my daddy was so mad. My daddy was
Right, but it fell somewhere.
I said, I know, I took a pause in my dog. Hold on, $100 going on there.
Right. Y'all straight. Come, let's go. Let's finish. We have 2 more pages.
My longest pages.
The 3 types of security over land, because don't mind Bruce, he leads you up to Gumtree. A legal mortgage which confers a legal interest on the mortgagee and may only be granted by the mortgage or who has a legal estate in the land, either the fee simple or a lease.
Here we go.
Number 1.
So, remember when I started, I said you can only have an interest in land?
Mhm.
There are 2 interests in land.
Wow, this is the.
One is a legal interest. No. One is an equitable interest. So when you get a mortgage, what does the bank have?
Legal interest.
Legal interest.
Okay.
The bank has a legal interest. And the client has equitable.
Okay.
When you own the property outright, you have both interests.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you mortgage it, you give up the legal interest.
Makes sense, that makes sense.
So
Say that
that,
again, please.
hmm?
Say that again, please. I didn't know. What did
Okay.
you say?
When you own a piece of land outright with no debt, you have both legal interest and equitable interest. When you obtain a mortgage, the bank takes the legal interest. That's why the bank has the right to enforce the mortgage and sell your property. The only right you have is an equitable interest. And your equitable interest is what we just finished talking about over here.
You being recorded.
Yes.
Also, that's why if you have a mortgage, you can't outright just sell your property. You have to come to the bank first.
Because they own the legal interest in your property.
Yeah.
This is the only interest you have.
Could the bank,
Yes.
could the bank could
This is
like,
nonsense.
prevent someone from selling their property?
What do you mean? Prevent it
Like-
from?
Like if I had a mortgage
Mhm.
with a bank and I wanna sell it,
No, you can't do that.
Just go to the bank first.
I have to
You have to
go
go to
to,
bank.
I know I can't
Yeah.
just sell it on my
Mhm.
own. I mean, if I go to the bank and I let them know I wanna sell my property, I have some who's willing to buy it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, who's qualified at his bank,
Mm-hmm.
wherever you going.
Yeah, that could
Could
work.
that bank, could my bank say, no, you can't sell it? They can't say no.
Really, apparently.
No, very.
Well,
They don't want their money.
They'll go back to the commitment letter.
Right.
To say what was, because you know, you only get some commitment letters usually, they say you could pay a certain amount of the principal back within a certain time.
Time, yeah, there
Go
are
back.
limitations.
sell it on
Yeah,
the
there are
thing.
limitations.
So they'll just go back to that, and what they'll do is you will be obligated to pay them the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because
If
you know,
you ain't meeting.
if
Because
you
don't
only
forget
get
that the bank
yeah.
doesn't want to lose.
They don't
Right,
want to
of
lose
course.
money
Uh-huh.
because they've already allotted interest for this for so
Mhm,
long.
mhm.
So that's the only thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
No one?
Well, it's obvious she used to do it.
Yeah.
I used to do litigation. That's the reason why.
That's going to the protection of the mortgagor. Once the mortgagor has paid off the loan, the property becomes free of the mortgage granted over it. Hence, the mortgagor has effectively redeemed his property. So during, yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
So these people who burn up their papers after they already paid off the mortgage.
Yes,
That's
sir.
wise.
No.
No, because that'd be
That's your
part of the
conveyance, that's your title.
documents.
That would prove that you have your property free, simple, absolute in possession. If you were to burn this, right, and you now decide that you own it, so you have to go to the lawyer, and lawyer do the whole title search to come back to see you own it, and you can pay them a couple $1,000
Coffee
to do
maker
that.
in mind.
So photocopy and burn.
That's a
photocopy.
literal term when they say we burn the mortgage.
I've seen
And you
some
better,
people that do.
you
Wow,
Oh,
that's
no.
You
You
better
wouldn't
go
do that.
Not
register the
them burn, they cut it
satisfaction.
up, they had a party and they cut the thing up in the middle of the party.
No, that's your legal document, that shows that
They
you
must
own
have-
that.
They must have
That forms
scanned it
part
now.
of
Hopefully.
That probably was a
title
copy.
document.
Hopefully.
No, that was not the real thing.
Oh,
Say
right,
hopefully.
that's-
Hope not.
that wouldn't even
So-
be possible.
During what we call the currency of the mortgage,
That's the thing.
you as a client have equity in that. And the bank cannot clog that. You understand what I mean by clog? They cannot block it. So like Bruce was saying, why Bruce was saying, well, I don't know why they do it. As long as you have equity in your home and you meet the loan to value ratio and you can qualify, they cannot stop you.
No.
So if you want to go and mortgage your whole property up, that's your business. As long as you have the capacity to make the payments, as long as you meet the loan to value ratio, because don't forget what some people do now, every 3 to 5 years, they have their houses appraised. So they just keep going up more and more and more. And then they keep borrowing more and more and more. Then they hit 60, no more income. Then what happens? If they cannot make those payments, the house
Get restructured and all these different things.
restructuring or it goes up for sale.
Well, that's one of those.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, that's silly
What?
altogether. That's
We won't
just
be,
silly
because
to
the
be
instruction
doing that.
limit, the age limit is 80 years old, we won't be paying more.
No.
That's why you have
We're
many
gonna be
children.
getting these
Some
equity
people is
loans.
the 80 and
Do not get equity.
But the problem with having plenty children is children that are willing to pay your mortgage if you're not going to put the property in their name. You understand that? Because I could be paying this mortgage for you, but you turn around and you will it to somebody else. Then what happens to me and my money?
Big fight.
Don't be
Okay.
selfish. Don't be selfish. It's your
What you
parents.
mean?
It's your parents.
If there are 5 of us,
Someone
and you
get
say
a
I must pay the mortgage for you, but you already wrote your will 10 years ago,
and somebody else-
and you give it to her. So she walk into a she could tell you, I'm not sharing this with you. You did it out of the goodness of your heart for mommy and daddy.
Jesus is going to reward you.
Well, while I live in here, I will enjoy this house.
I do.
You're not that good. Yeah, you know what you want.
I don't have that about
You know
that.
what you want. Yeah.
So we already talked about that. Yeah, we already talked about that. So let's look at the rights and legal remedies available to a legal mortgagee. A mortgagee has right that may exercise even without default by the mortgagor action for debt. So even if you haven't missed 3 consecutive payments on to your 4th or 5th payment, the bank has the right to sue you for their money by law. Second, they can appoint a receiver going through the courts, or they could foreclose, or they could take possession. Or exercise the power of sale. So all of these are remedies that are available to the bank. So we saw in the recession there was a lot of power for sale, where the bank sold the mortgages in bulk at a haircut in order to take them off the books. But before, you would have seen a lot of action for debt. Before the recession, you see people didn't make 2 payments and they'll go inside filing these small little claims for the 2,000 or 5,000, and then they start doing the restructuring. And after that didn't work, then it's time to call it in and sell the property. All right? So next week we do bill of exchange.
Let's jump to 8.
Yes.
Chapter 8, you said you don't have to?
Chapter 10. You could read, we'll talk about that briefly. It will be the week after.
Chapter is a long chapter.
Yeah, that's why you read it before you come. Because I'm going to tell you what you need to know.
So you read chapter 8 and chapter 10.
Yeah, read it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but he said read it. I'll have your grades for you.
Email
Have
me
some
that.
good news.
You want to email me that?
You don't just want to go.
Huh?
I need to celebrate before I start.
You did what?
I need to celebrate
Oh Lord.
Celebrate.
before I
Miss
start.
Archer, I thought